Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Really True Sports Network. The NFL Show is brought to you by, now we got a new one, Replenishing Care and Technologies, which today at 2 o'clock you can hear me live with the founder of Replenishing Care and Technologies, James Comerford. And if you're an athlete, whether it's elite or just a weekend warrior, you want to check out this show, because if you want to basically recover quicker, get rid of all the pain in your body, all you got to do is look up Replenishing Care and Technologies. All right, I am your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host from the FF Face-Off, Anthony Cervino. Anthony, are you an elite athlete or are you a weekend warrior?
I wouldn't call myself, maybe in the middle. You know, I'm in the gym 5 days a week, you know, non-competitive amateur bodybuilding, but that's about it. You know, too many injuries at 35 years old to do any of that.
What the hell is non-competitive amateur bodybuilding?
Just, you know, I train, I train like a bodybuilder, but I don't compete.
So you train to look good in the mirror?
Basically.
All right, I understand that, because I'm a 50-year-old that kind of does that now. But, all right, let's start off. We had an interesting week once again, and we're going to start off by talking about the New York Jets. Sam Darnold, 4 touchdowns, 239 yards. They go to Washington. They beat the Redskins 34-17. Dwayne Haskins, the numbers don't look bad. 19 for 35, 214 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. But the Redskins had absolutely no run game in this game.
Mike, the numbers don't look bad, but if you watched any of Dwayne Haskins play, he was terrible.
He usually is.
He's terrible. That's how I can sum that up. The Redskins played a lot better with Case Keenum. When you have a guy like Terry McLaurin, who was lighting the league on fire as a rookie with Case Keenum, and then in comes Dwayne Haskins, who did play in college with Terry McLaurin. That rapport is not turning over into the NFL. I don't know what it is, but McLaurin is just a guy right now. Yeah. Darius Geis had a nice catch out of the backfield that he turned into a pretty big touchdown play. He looked good. I think that is one bright spot for the Redskins. Like I said, I like McLaurin. I just don't think Dwayne Haskins is the guy. Maybe I'm not giving him enough due diligence, but it's been a couple of weeks now, and I've seen zero improvement. And this was against the Jets defense that isn't that good. And then you're talking about Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has been playing better of late.
Yeah, and is he playing better of late because he played the Washington Redskins? But I think Darnold is a savable quarterback, but I also think he's a guy that's going to take another year or so to get completely comfortable. But I would much rather have him than Mitch Trubisky or Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, no argument there.
Or Ryan Finley, but we'll get to that later. Next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Your pick at the start of the season to win the AFC South, and your pick to win this week, Anthony. Didn't get it done. The Colts beat him 33-13. Jacoby Brissett was back. He was 15 for 24, a touchdown and interception, 148 yards. But the difference here is Jonathan Williams, 13 carries, 116. Marlon Mack, 14 carries, 109 yards. Basically, this game was won because the Colts could run the ball, and the Jaguars couldn't.
Yeah, and the Jaguars really couldn't stop the run either. The Colts won the game. They were right back in the mix of it for the AFC South, especially now that Houston lost. But the bigger, more significant news out of this game is Marlon Mack. He did suffer a dislocated, I don't know if it was a hand or whatnot, but he is probably not going to play on Thursday night. No Marlon Mack. I know Jonathan Williams ran the ball well, but, really he's just a guy. The Colts need to somehow stay healthy. I mean, no T.Y. Hilton, now no Marlon Mack. I don't know how they're going to keep weathering the storm with these injuries and staying afloat.
Yeah, and they've had injuries at wide receiver, DB. They've been ate up with injuries all season, and I think that's going to be the downfall before this is all over. And with the Jacksonville Jaguars at 4-6, we could pretty much stick a fork in them, can't we, Anthony?
Yeah, they're done. And maybe I was just trying to hold on to my preseason pick, and I always had a heart for the Jaguars because I like the way they play defense. but they're done. They're done for the year.
Yeah, they're about as done can get because right now, you lose one more game, you might be able to get a wild card, but you probably got to win every game here. And now they're a couple games back in the division. Next up, the Buffalo Bills finally righted the ship with a 37-20 win over the Miami Dolphins. Devin Singletary ran the ball well, 15 for 75 yards. Josh Allen, 21 for 33, 256 yards, 3 touchdowns. This was to me, a win or you're done game. When you look at the Bills' schedule, they've got 3 games I think they're going to win, 3 they're going to lose. They end up 10-6. They make the playoffs. I think Buffalo's in pretty decent shape right now.
Yeah, this was a game that they had to have, and I thought that they would win it. I do like the fact that they won it convincingly because Miami was playing better, but Buffalo showed they were the better team. They were the more dominant team, and Josh Allen, had one of the games of his life. This is the 5th game in a row in which he did not have an interception, and he has only had 1 turnover, which was a fumble lost in that time span. And Josh Allen's a player that he can turn the ball over, and he's been protecting it well, and Buffalo's been winning.
Yeah, and Ryan Fitzpatrick, 32 for 43, 323, but the problem here is they ran for 23 yards on 13 carries, and that's not going to win in the NFL. That's not going to win in Pee Wee football. If you don't run the ball, you can't win, Anthony.
I've never seen anything like this. The Dolphins' backfield has to be one of the most inefficient backfields in a long time. Last week, Kalen Ballage, 20 carries, 43 yards, 2.2 yards per carry. Yesterday, 9 carries, 9 yards. There is not one game, no, only one game this year they averaged over 3 yards a carry.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why they've only won 2 games. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys beat the Detroit Lions 35-27. Dak Prescott played well, 444 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. But what's up with Ezekiel Elliott? 16 carries, 45 yards, 2.8 per carry, Anthony.
There's something off with Zeke this year. This isn't the first game. I mean, look at last week. You can put it on Zeke, too. I don't know if the opposing defense is just trying to game plan Zeke out of it and have Dak beat you. Because in the past, Dak couldn't beat you. This season, Dak is turning over a new leaf.
I don't think so. I don't think he can beat you without the running game. I mean, this is a Detroit Lions team below 500 that was playing with Jeff Driscoll.
But here's the thing. Because you're game planning to take Zeke out, I do think that opens up the passing game a little bit more for Dak. So, no, maybe Zeke isn't doing it statistically, but he's making plays that you're not seeing on the playbook. Like on one of the Tony Pollard runs, Zeke was down the field blocking. Zeke is a hell of a pass protector. So Zeke, is doing things that you're not going to see on the stat sheet to help Dallas win. But I am concerned. Now, on Tony Pollard, in games in which he played at least 12 snaps this season, Dallas is 6-0. Maybe we are going to see, because Tony Pollard, Dre drafted him because he could play a little slot receiver. He's explosive in the passing game. He can return. He can do a lot of things. Maybe he's going to be that Alvin Kamara type back to this Cowboys offense, because he was very explosive every time he touched the ball yesterday.
Well, and on the Detroit side, Jeff Driscoll, backup quarterback, played well, 15 for 26, 209, 2 touchdowns. They didn't really have much of a running game. Driscoll was actually probably their most productive runner. My worry here, if I'm a Cowboys fan, though, if Matt Stafford plays this game, things may have went a lot different.
You think? See, I think about that. But then Matt Stafford isn't as mobile as Driscoll, and I think that's what Dallas, maybe they weren't ready for how elusive. And, yeah, Jeff Driscoll is pretty elusive. He was one of the faster quarterbacks coming out of the draft in his rookie year.
Yeah, but everybody knows that. So why wouldn't you be prepared for it?
But I don't know.
Because he started over half the Bengals games last year. This is the second game he started there. So if they weren't prepared, that would lead us back to Jason Garrett. But we're not going to have that conversation today because we'll be able to do that at the end of the year when we have our Black Monday show. Next up, the Baltimore Ravens, after a slow start, beat the Houston Texans 41-7. I think I might have been a little off on that game. Deshaun Watson, 18 for 29, 169, and an interception. Carlos Hyde couldn't run the ball. And the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, 17 for 24, 222, 4 touchdowns, 9 carries, 86 yards. But I think the thing that made this even more productive, Anthony, Gus Edwards averaged 14 yards per carry, 8 carries, 112 yards. Mark Ingram, 13 carries for 48 yards. And when you can run the ball like that, and the way they're playing defense right now, this is a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, the Ravens right now are the best team in the NFL. And sure, Lamar Jackson's going to get all the credit and all the accolades, but I'll keep banging this drum. Marcus Peters is the difference maker on this Ravens team and will be the difference maker if they make a Super Bowl run.
How about this? I think the difference maker is John Harbaugh. You got rid of Terrell Suggs. You got rid of a couple guys that were all-pro defenders. And this defense
right, and you brought in Earl Thomas. You brought in Marcus Peters, who's an all-pro.
Yeah, but what you're talking about with Terrell Suggs, guys like that, you're talking about guys that were leaders of the defense, which is why I think we saw this slow start by the defense. And my big question was the defense at the start of the year because they didn't look that good. But John Harbaugh is a great football coach. I mean, he's built this offense perfectly for Lamar Jackson. And now the defense has come along to where this is possibly the best team in the NFL. And I think John Harbaugh deserves a ton of credit here for getting the right pieces to solve this puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens organization, top to bottom, they're doing things right now.
Yeah, and they have for a long time because you had 3 down years where a lot of places would have fired John Harbaugh. And actually, he was supposed to be on the hot seat last year. Next up. The Minnesota Vikings, after being down 20-0 at the half, come back to win 27-23. Kirk Cousins, 29 for 35, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. This is with a non-existent running game. Dalvin Cook, 11 carries for 26 yards. The thing I take away from this, Anthony, is the Vikings were coming off a Sunday night high-profile win. They're down 20-0 at the half. They're down 23-7 going into the fourth quarter. And Kirk Cousins brought him back to win the game.
Yeah, and I picked Minnesota in a survivor pool. And I'm one of the final guys in. So I was kind of down. And right after I started complimenting Kirk Cousins, I'm saying this is what happens. This is why I was always down on Cousins, because he chokes. And sure enough, Kirk Cousins, who is playing some of the best football of his life, brings the Vikings back. Kyle Rudolph, Stephon Diggs. He's doing all this without Adam Thielen, and the Vikings came out with the win. So, Kirk Cousins, can't say anything bad about the guy right now.
Thank you, Anthony. All right, next up, the Atlanta Falcons. 2 weeks in a row, beat playoff contenders.
Take Dak.
If you take Dak, you're crazy.
Dak.
I don't think you would. Not if you were in a building where we had to say, tell us the truth, who do you want? But I can tell you this, if you put Mike Zimmer in Dallas and you put Jason Garrett in Minnesota, you'd probably want Dak. Because I think a lot of this has to do with coaching. Atlanta, 29, Carolina, 3. And my question is, Atlanta scoring 29 points on anybody doesn't surprise me. Matt Ryan's a hell of a quarterback. But they did the 29 points with no running game. Ryan only throws 1 touchdown. This game was won, just like last week's, with the Atlanta Falcons defense. They intercepted Kyle Allen 4 times. They held Christian McCaffrey to 70 yards rushing, and they kept him under 200 yards for the entire game. But that was the majority of the offense here for Carolina. So what's up with the defense? How do you turn it around this quick?
Is it Dan Quinn? I know, in their bye week, they made some coaching changes. I don't know what it is, but this Falcons team with 2 impressive wins. My biggest takeaway off this game is Kyle Allen, and I was extremely high on Kyle Allen. I had many arguments on my show with my co-host about Kyle Allen versus Cam. I don't think it's Cam or Kyle Allen in the future for the Carolina Panthers.
Why? We've seen Kyle Allen play 2 bad games all year.
He's played 3. His 3 losses have been atrocious. This is a guy who did not throw an interception until week 8, but in the past 4 games in which he's lost 3, he's thrown 9 interceptions, 3 touchdowns, and also lost a fumble.
Well, I think he's 5-2 either way, or 5-3, and I think people read way too much into 1 or 2 bad performances. I never thought Kyle Allen was a great player before. I think he's a solid guy. If you put enough talent around him, you can win. I don't know that there's enough overall talent.
But he has talent.
Nah.
He has one of the top 2 running backs in the NFL.
He's got Christian McCaffrey.
Good wide receivers.
DJ Moore, Greg Olsen, Curtis Samuel.
Right.
But the problem is this.
The defense.
Not just that. The offensive line's not very good. And the one thing we do know is usually if your offensive line's not very good, you're not going to win a whole lot of football games. So I'm not ready to throw Kyle Allen in the trash because he played a bad game. But I never was convinced to begin with. To me, he just looked like a solid guy, which is probably more than what Cam Newton is now. But that's about where we stand there. I mean, the Panthers aren't going to make the playoffs. But the one thing we do know is every 3 or 4 weeks, Jameis Winston will throw more than 2 interceptions.
I can't wait to talk about Jameis Winston.
Why? Go ahead.
Because in his past 5 games, he's turned the ball over 17 times.
Is that all?
That's it.
Okay. Well, that's not too bad. How many touchdowns did he throw? 8, 6?
I'll go back and look. I know he's thrown for 5 straight 300-yard games, but 17 and he wasn't turning the ball over to start the year. But in the past 5, 17 turnovers, that's a lot.
But those 17 turnovers were just in 3 games probably because he had the one game with 5. You know, he had 3 or 4 here. So my thing is this. I actually like Jameis Winston and think he's savable. But we all knew after what happened last week that the New Orleans Saints were going to come smack the crap out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Drew Brees, 28 for 35, 228, 3 touchdowns. Kamara runs for 75 yards. So I think this game is pretty much what we expected, though, either way. And there's no running game in Tampa Bay. And when you play a defense like New Orleans, you're going to throw 4 picks if you're throwing the ball 51 times and your team is only rushed for 36 yards for the entire game.
Yeah, a little bit more out of here. You know, I watched this game first quarter, and O.J. Howard was benched over it, but it was a perfectly thrown ball by Jameis Winston. O.J. Howard bobbles it. It gets intercepted, and then the Saints go ahead and score. They put themselves up 2 scores, and that was really the game. And that's the difference between the good teams and the bad teams. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers finally benched O.J. Howard. And, you know, they're probably going to run, or they should run, with Cameron Brate, who is and has always been Jameis Winston's safety blanket at tight end. I know that O.J. Howard's an elite talent, but for whatever reason, it hasn't blossomed with Jameis Winston. Last year, when O.J. Howard was putting up big numbers, it was in the games that Ryan Fitzpatrick was a starter.
Yeah. So, all right. I mentioned earlier, before we go to the Cardinals and the 49ers, that we have a new sponsor, Replenishing Care and Technologies. So real quick, Anthony, be quiet for 2 minutes because we have a couple commercials to run, and I want to remind everybody at 2 o'clock live today, we'll have James Comerford from Replenishing Care and Technologies on, but we will be back in about 1 minute and 50 seconds. Anthony, sound good? Here we go.
Yes, I thought you told me to be quiet, but I'll start.
Yeah, I did, but I'm just making sure you understand because I used to do shows with guys that didn't, and you'd hear them humming in the background while the commercials playing. So, not naming any names, but we'll be back right after this.
Motorist Insurance Group and Brick Street Insurance have come together to create a better one-stop shop for agents and policyholders, encircling you with coverage at every step in life's journey. We are now Encova Insurance.
Replenishing Care and Technologies is a legal competitive advantage for elite athletes to promote their lifelong health. Replenishing Care and Technologies achieves this by stacking a set of specifically chosen regenerative medicine technologies into one personal best performance and personal best fitness system. Each technology either gives your cells back the resources needed to perform, heal, and repair at its best, or helps your body stay in homeostasis so you can train harder, recover faster, and improve performance. Learn more by clicking on the RC&T banner at the top of our website, thegruelingtruth.com.
Prepare your vehicle for the weather ahead during Superstart Battery Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts with great deals on batteries and accessories. Plus, save on your next oil change with 5 quarts of Valvoline Max Life motor oil and a MicroGuard filter, just $28.99. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly.
Prepare your vehicle for the weather ahead during Superstart Battery Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Purchase a Superstart battery and get up to a $25 gift card after mail-in rebate. Plus great deals on jumper cables, battery chargers, and more. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hello, this is Roman Gabriel, and you are listening to The Grueling Truth.
All right, guys, we're back on the NFL show. I'm Mike Goodpaster with Anthony Cervino. And Anthony, yesterday the 49ers struggled with the Cardinals for the second time this year. Jimmy Garoppolo, 34 for 45, 424 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The thing that really surprised me here is the way the Cardinals took away the running game of the 49ers.
Yeah, the 49ers really couldn't get anything going on the ground, and that's really their bread and butter. They put it all on Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy Garoppolo made a couple of costly turnovers that almost cost the 49ers the game, but in the end, Jimmy Garoppolo was able to drive down the field for the game-winning score. But you're not going to play a dismal defense like the Cardinals every week. If he's going to be throwing interceptions like this against a good team, now that we're going to get into December and in the postseason, the 49ers are going to lose games.
Yeah, and on the other side, Kyler Murray, 24 for 33, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think this kid's the real deal. I just don't think he has enough weapons right now. Kenyon Drake, 16 for 67. Christian Kirk caught 6 balls. Larry Fitzgerald, 5. But I think overall, the Cardinal season so far has been a success. I think they're a lot better than I thought they would be.
Yeah, I wasn't high on Cliff Kingsbury. I didn't think that Kyler Murray was going to translate into the league and the air raid system. But, you know, they're proving me wrong right now. They're proving both of us wrong.
No way. I like Kyler Murray. Cliff Kingsbury's proving me wrong.
See, I don't know if it's a lack of weapons. I think their weapons are young. Especially at wide receiver. Aside from Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk's in his second year. I think he's going to be a really good player for them. Andy Isabella. They have about 3 rookies that are seeing a lot of time, and they'll eventually develop. Their running back situation, that's the head scratcher. David Johnson couldn't get going at all this year, and now he's basically been benched. I don't even know if he had a touch yesterday. They brought over Kenyon Drake, who's playing okay. Chase Edmonds had that really big game or two, and then he got injured. So I think this team will be fine. I don't know if David Johnson's a fit into Cliff Kingsbury's system, so it'll be interesting to see how this backfield unfolds in the offseason. Because I don't see David Johnson, contract or not, returning to the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, and I think weapon-wise, wide receivers are fine. The problem I think that this has turned into is just every running back they have that's good gets hurt. And Kenyon Drake is a good running back, but I think on a good team, he's more of a number 2 running back, if that makes any sense. And they still have some offensive line issues, but I like Murray because of the simple fact that he is a rookie quarterback who seldom turns the ball over.
If their defense was better, I think you could put 2 or 3 more wins on their.
I think they'd be a playoff contender just from the fact that Kyler Murray does make plays, and he doesn't make a lot of bad plays. I mean,
he doesn't turn the ball over.
That's what I'm saying. If you put him in San Francisco, they'd be undefeated right now.
Yeah.
And I like Jimmy Garoppolo, but I think Kyler Murray could be really special as long as they can, get a running game and put the pieces around him. All right, next up, the New England Patriots scared Anthony yesterday because they almost lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles lost the game 17-10. My question is, and I hate to ask this because every time he has a bad game we do, but Tom Brady doesn't look the same anymore, Anthony.
Tom Brady hasn't looked the same all season.
I don't think he looked the same last year.
On top of it all, I mean, the offensive line is not the same. They lost the left tackle. He went over to Oakland, and they've had injuries since. They can't run the football. Sony Michel is not even a blip on the radar. This is the second game in a row where James White is getting the short yardage situation, which shows, and White's a primary pass catcher. It shows that White's the only running back they trust. They're trying to get Rex Burkhead, who's always injured, involved. Their receivers, they lost Dorsett. He caught a touchdown. He left the game with a concussion. Mohamed Sanu, I believe, suffered a lower body injury. So they're running with rookie Jacoby Myers and Keel Harry and Julian Edelman. And if it wasn't for Edelman's touchdown throw, I don't know if the Patriots are winning this game. They're going to have to rely on their defense.
Yeah, and it's going to be extremely interesting to see if Dak Prescott can do the 28 for 35 for 3 touchdowns against the Patriots secondary.
I'm excited for this game. I'm worried about this game. A lot of mixed feelings about this game this week. Because where I do think you can get to the Patriots a little bit is running the football, and Dallas can't run the football right now.
Yeah.
If Jason Garrett was smart, and we all know that he's probably not as smart as his Princeton college pedigree, I think you mix it up, and I said this earlier, get Tony Pollard the football, because I don't know if Bill Belichick's going to expect it.
It doesn't matter if he expects it, though, because he'll adjust to it. Carson Wentz, 20 for 40, 214, and 1 touchdown. They had a chance to tie this game at the end, let it slip through their fingers. But they didn't run the ball either. Without Jordan Howard, this team's not nearly as dangerous as what they are with him.
No, not at all. And I think we're starting to see how good Jordan Howard actually is, because the Bears collapsed. The Eagles aren't the same without him. And, all Jordan Howard does, he's a productive running back. And he's not sexy. He's not he's not Christian McCaffrey. He's not making the splash plays on ESPN, but he gets the job done.
Yeah, I love Jordan Howard. And that's
Me
what I
too.
said last year when the Bears lost him, that they would be a last-place team this year. And if Matt Stafford was healthy, I think they would be, and they might be anyways by the time this is over. I think overall for the Eagles, you got to kind of feel good that the Patriots didn't smash you. But what do you think? If they score a touchdown at the end to make it 17-16, Peterson would have went for 2, don't you think?
Probably.
I like that guy. That's why the Eagles will win the NFC East, as long as they can get a few guys healthy. Next up, Opie Taylor tied Dave Shula's record of starting off 0-10 in his first year as the Oakland Raiders beat the Bengals 17-10. Ryan Finley for the Bengals was 13 for 31 for 115 yards and an interception, and this was all Andy Dalton's fault.
It's Andy Dalton's fault. I was just going to say it. This is all on Andy Dalton.
It's all Andy Dalton's fault. Josh Jacobs, 23 carries, 112. Derek Carr, 25 for 29, 292, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. It wasn't pretty, but it's a win the Raiders had to have. And basically, we've got 2 teams nothing was expected of. One has probably played far beyond those expectations in a good way, and the other one has gone south of those expectations, if that's possible.
I'll tell you what. If the Kansas City Chiefs lose tonight, the Raiders will be in first place in the AFC West.
Yeah. And then they go to Kansas City, don't they?
Yeah.
And
but
that's
if they
not
lose,
an unwinnable game.
So if Kansas City loses tonight, the Raiders are in first place with the chance to go up a game or another game.
Game and a half, yeah.
Right. But if they lose, that either way, that game next week between the Raiders and the Chiefs is going to mean something, and nobody thought this game was going to mean something in the preseason.
Yeah, it's been a while since the Raiders-Chiefs game, and middle of November or later has meant anything, I think.
And I'm excited for it.
Well, 3 years ago, Derek Carr got hurt in a game against the Chiefs, wasn't it? When they were playing for first place.
I do. Yeah, I do. I think that was against the Chiefs.
Yeah, it was like a Sunday or Monday night. I think it was the last time it did matter. The Bengals, on their part, played hard, but really, Zach Taylor's a horrible football coach. They had the ball at the end of the first half trying to score. They ran a play with a minute left in the half. The next play they ran was with 19 seconds left in the half. He is a complete and utter abortion for this football team. And my fear is, with Mike Brown as the owner, he let Dave Shula flounder around for 5 years. And my fear is he's going to do the same thing here.
Unless he goes out and gets, I don't care who the head coach is, unless they go get some help on the offensive line, this team will go nowhere.
The coach does matter, though, because this is the thing. I've seen a lot of offensive linemen that weren't very good for the Bengals that went elsewhere, and with better coaching, were not bad teams, or not bad players.
I mean, Taylor isn't coaching the offensive line. You know
yes,
that.
He is. He coaches everything. He's the head coach. He hired the offensive line coach. And that offensive line coach's pedigree was crap.
But they were terrible for the past 2 seasons.
Yeah. Well,
on the offensive line.
And they fired Marvin Lewis because of it. They brought in Zach Taylor, and Zach Taylor hired, they had Frank Pollock, who was, you know who he is. He was the former Cowboys offensive line coach last year. And instead of keeping a proven guy who could coach, they couldn't keep him because he wanted the hell out of here. They end up with a guy that was the offensive line coach at Texas A&M the last couple of years, which there's nothing wrong with that. But he has proven to be an utter failure in the NFL. So, yeah, when you're the head coach, you kind of got to take the blame for everything, Anthony.
I mean, I don't want to, like I said, I want to see Taylor get a legitimate shot.
He's had it. I could tell you this. Marvin Lewis, with Andy Dalton as his starting quarterback, would have won 3 or 4 games this year. They would have won yesterday for sure, I think.
Yeah, I think if Andy Dalton was in there regardless, they would have won that game.
Yeah. And instead they didn't. Is that tanking? No, it's ineptitude. Because they're not going to tank to get the number 1 pick because they'd probably rather not have it because they got to pay the number 1 pick more money. Let's talk about somebody else that's inept. Mitchell Trubisky, 24 for 43, 190 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and the stats look better than what he actually played. The Bears have no running game. Tariq Cohen, 9 carries, 39 yards. David Montgomery, 14 carries for 31 yards. The Rams, Jared Goff, 11 for 18, 173 yards, no touchdown, 1 pick. Todd Gurley, 25 carries, 97 yards, under 4 yards per carry. This was a bad football game by 2 teams that I think are just bad football teams right now, Anthony.
I think there is a bright spot for the Rams. They did run the ball a little bit better yesterday than they normally did, and they switched up the offensive line. I think they had a couple of rookies in there, and this could be the formula to possibly put it together for the rest of the year.
Yeah, but Anthony,
they played, 2 of their starting receivers did not play. Cooks is hurt with the concussion, and Robert Woods had a personal matter, was a late scratch. The Rams won the game. They had to win the game, and that's really the bottom line. I think they're going to have if they have any type of playoff aspirations, it has to be on their defense.
All right, I don't think they ran the ball real well. I mean, you're looking at
better than they have.
37 carries for 110 yards is like 3 yards per carry.
I bet you that's a higher yard per carry average than half of their games this year.
And that's why they've lost almost half of their games this year. So I'm just saying, when it gets down to it, they have to put it like this. They got to run a ball like they did last year for Jared Goff to be successful. Because Jared Goff is not very good. He's like Mitchell Trubisky. And things have to be exactly perfect for him to be a good quarterback.
I don't know. Don't put Jared Goff in the same breath as Mitchell Trubisky.
Why? I think Mitchell
we all know
Trubisky,
he's better than Mitchell Trubisky.
I don't know. I think they both. Yeah, you're right. He is, but he still sucks. I'll leave it at that. I don't think either one of them are very good. All right, tonight we have an interesting matchup in Mexico as the Kansas City Chiefs will take on the Los Angeles Chargers tonight. This is a huge game for the Chiefs. It's a huge game for the Chargers. The Chargers have to win this game to have any kind of chance, Anthony. What's your first thoughts on this game?
Pretty much just that. It's a must-win for both sides. I think whoever runs the ball better is going to ultimately win this game. And on the Chargers end, you have to somehow contain Patrick Mahomes. Easier said than done. But, Phillip Rivers is going to have a blast from the pass and somehow, have one of his best games of the year, if not his best game of the year, to come out on top. But it all comes down to Melvin Gordon and Damian Williams. Whoever the better running back is on either side, that team's going to win.
Yeah, I think right here, Patrick Mahomes against the Kansas City passing defense, or the Los Angeles pass defense, is going to be a big deal. And I think with most defenses, they don't stack up well with Kansas City's passing game. But the Chargers do boast a fifth-ranked pass defense in the NFL. They've allowed just 207 yards per game. They rarely get beat deep. And they have one of the top cornerbacks in the league in Pro Bowler Casey Hayward to help contend with the likes of Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Robinson. The Chargers' track record also against Travis Kelce is one that until I looked it up, I didn't realize he's never recorded a touchdown catch or a 100-yard receiving mark in 10 career games against them.
No, they really do play each other. The Chargers really do play them well. And what you're not overlooking, but what you didn't mention is their pass rush.
Well, I was getting to that, but then you interrupted me because
that pass rush is going to be a big key to this game.
Yeah, Bosa and Ingram, 7 sacks over the last 3 games alone.
If Mahomes is still playing through that injury, and I believe he is, and they haven't been protecting him well anyway, Bosa and Ingram could have a field day, and it's not going to be good for the Kansas City Chiefs. They could be sitting at second place of the Oakland Raiders when it's all said and done.
Well, I think for the Chiefs, though, they have held up pretty well in pass protection. They've given up 18 sacks in 10 games, which isn't bad. And they're going to have the healthy return of both offensive tackles, Eric Fisher and Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, whatever the hell his name is. Sounds like a damn.
He's a doctor.
He must play for the FC Kansas City. Is there an FC Kansas City in the MLS? Because it sounds like a soccer name.
No, he's actually, I believe he's French, and he's also an actual doctor. Or he's becoming a doctor in the offseason. Little interesting fact.
I was thinking about doing that this offseason also.
Yeah.
So I think the big thing here is Phillip Rivers. And the Chargers' offensive line has not been great this year. The Chiefs' pass rush has been much better the last few weeks. I think when you look at this game, the easiest way to win it for the Chargers is to keep the Chiefs off the field with Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler running the ball, catching the ball out of the backfield. I think there is a way for the Chargers to win this game, but I think I'm going to pick the Chiefs tonight, Anthony.
Yeah, as much as I want to pick the Chargers, I think the Chiefs are going to come out on top.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
No, I think we've covered just about everything. Evan Ingram's out of his walking boot for what it's worth for the last place Giants.
Oh, the Giants still play in the NFL?
They do. They were on a bye.
Huh. Who knew? Let's see. I just wish they wouldn't suspended all these Browns and Steelers so they could have played against each other and made that game more interesting in 2 weeks. There would have been some good fights. It would have been good.
Yeah.
But, all right, I want to remind everybody, make sure you check us out live at 2 o'clock right here at thegrillytruth.com as we'll have James Comerford from Replenishing Care and Technologies to talk about a little cellular regeneration. Make sure you check that out. Anthony, you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. You can follow my show at the FF Face Off. And you can find us on all the top social media and podcast platforms.
All right, guys. We will not be back until next Monday because I have to go to Panama City to coach some football this week. So make sure you listen to the rest of the GrillingTruth.com shows during the week. We will have a packed schedule today as I try to get all this week's shows done today. Of course, at 2 o'clock, Replenishing Care and Technology founder James Comerford. At 3 o'clock, Indiana Basketball Weekly with myself and Ken Sterling to talk about Indiana's beatdown of Troy, 100-62. Indiana Football Weekly with Cole Hanna later tonight. CFL Grey Cup preview show with myself, Robert Drummond, and Brian Schmidt tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern. At 10 o'clock Eastern, we'll have the Cincinnati Bengals Weekly Show with Joe Kelly. And at 11 o'clock, we'll have Inside Boxing Weekly with myself and Jeremiah Pricer. So we will be busy. So make sure you check us out all day today. Check us out all week. Check us out at thegruelingtruth.com for all of our articles. You could also, I haven't brought this up in a while, download our app on the Google Play Store, which is just the Grueling Truth Sports Network app. Make sure you download that. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Grueling Truth. So for Anthony Cervino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.